Hey Mena Warriors, it's Kate and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm talking about what happens beyond menopause. So menopause generally is the day when you've no longer had a period for a year. However, there are a lot of people in the menopause community who are suggesting to take 2 years as the official start date of your menopause because you can have intermittent bleeding, you can get the odd period in that sort of stage between, you've had 1 year and then all of a sudden you have a quick bleed. In fact, that happened to me. I'd nearly gone a year. I think I'd gone 11 months. And then we were heading down to the south of France camping, and all of a sudden, really, really timely, I had a period. And in fact, that happened to me twice. So I technically nearly was postmenopausal twice, and then it never happened. So it can be up to 2 years, and then you know that you're pretty much safe. You're out of the woods. You've gone into what's known as postmenopause, because menopause is just the one day still officially known as no longer having had a period within an 11-month period. But like I say, I mean, mine happened on about month 11. So technically that was still perimenopause. But I've spoken to women who've had, they've had a random bleed or a period or a couple of periods way beyond that first year of no period. So just be mindful that that can happen. That is completely normal if that happens. So just sort of to explain that on the whole, your symptoms are likely to improve as you go through postmenopause. I think there's several reasons for that. Obviously, we're getting used to the decline in hormones, but we are also becoming more used to living in that postmenopausal body. And also the sort of the cycles of the ups and downs are not so great because technically we're no longer within, we're no longer required for evolution because we've had our babies and offspring, and so we're no longer serving that purpose. And the fact that our hormones are now much lower, so long as we maintain a certain level of self-care, the postmenopausal years eventually do get better. I've spoken to a few women who've said it got worse before it got better. Those were women who not completely, but the majority of them had been taking HRT and then stopped HRT, or were not able to get their HRT, or not be able to get the brand of HRT that they wanted to get or that they normally got. And that created the sort of a bit of a backlash with all of a sudden having a lot of menopausal symptoms. It's amazing what you get used to. And also just to really be aware of the fact that we're getting older. So while some of these symptoms are menopause related, some of them are because we are just getting older. As we get older, our muscles do start to atrophy. We do become more frail. Our joints do hurt more. But I'm also a massive believer that there's so much that we can do to help slow down that aging. So, your chronological age might be, so how many actual years you've lived might be completely different to your biological age. If you're looking after yourself, or even if you've not up to this point, but then start to look after yourself, you can roll back the years on your biological age. So that's really important thing to understand as well. Where you're at now, if you feel like, oh God, I've let it all slip, I've never done anything, it's too late, it is never ever too late. There is so much that you can do. I'll go over a few things today that will help you wherever you're at, whether you're brand new to self-care or whether you're a self-care diehard. So just know that also, as we go, beyond the menopause, or we're postmenopausal, your body can also respond like it did during the normal 4-week period, so cycle of your old periods. And I spoke to a lot of women who say the week before they're, in a 4-week period, the sort of that 3rd to 4th week, they're starting to feel a few more cravings coming on. They can feel a bit more ratty. Their sleep isn't as good. And even though they're postmenopausal, they're still getting a similar pattern as they did when they were having regular periods. So that, again, is completely normal. It can happen. We are still following a cycle. It's just that the level of the hormones involved in that cyclical cycle are a lot less. So just be aware of that. You might get more breast tenderness, like I say, cravings, you might get a bit more antsy or irritable, and then all of a sudden you find that goes away again, and you've got another 3 weeks of relatively smooth plain sailing. So I just want you to be aware of that, because I think a lot of people think, oh no, post-menopause, that's it, done. No, we actually still sort of work within a little bit of a cycle ourselves. And you'll find also, if you've got a lot of women living together, I remember when I was a student and we had like a house full of girls, and eventually nearly all our periods would start and end at the same time. I mean, it's freaky. You all move in together and it's all, you know, you're all over the shop. And then with time, when you've lived together for a while, your periods move into sync. I mean, that is just incredible. And you might find the same is happening with you is in your postmenopausal years. If you're living with women, you might have daughters who are ovulating, and you might find that you're following a similar pattern, just not aware of the fact that you are following that. You know, your bodies have synced, your cycles have synced together. So that was always just, you said, completely blow my mind. So I think there are certain things to understand that tend not, they do improve gradually. Certainly for me, eye dryness, I found during my sort of early postmenopausal years, my eyes were always dry and I always had eye drops next to me. Systane Balance, by the way, they're a bit more pricey, but I think those are the best eye drops out there. They keep your eyes moist for a long time. They've got no preservatives in them, and they've got a good shelf life as well, even though there are no preservatives in them. If not, Hypromellos are very good as well. They're just lubricating eye drops. Have a look at those. And I mean, now I don't really need to use eye drops. Sometimes I use them if I'm driving a long, long distance because my eyes just get tired. But beyond that, I'm pretty much out of the woods with eye drops. So the other thing to remember is, you know, as we go through menopause, postmenopause, we can become drier. And you know, that might be your skin, it could be your eyes, it could be your vaginal mucous membranes, it could be your nose. I've realized recently I've started having these terrible nosebleeds. Now, whether or not that's due to the mucous membranes in my nose becoming thinner, I'm not entirely sure. I think I'm going to have it cauterized, because when it happens, it is just such a big flood of blood, and I have quite a few of them. So I think there's probably a little, well, I can see it actually at my nose. It's a little capillary that I think might need some cauterizing. However, just know that if you can introduce something like, well, make sure you're drinking plenty of water for a start. Teas and coffees do not count. They are acidic. They are actually dehydrating. Yes, if you're in the middle of a desert and somebody offers you a cup of tea, you're probably going to have it because it'll help you keep alive a little bit longer until you get to the proper water source. However, tea and coffee is not a hydrating drink. You want water or coconut juice. That will work really well too. In fact, coconut juice is fabulous because it's got all the sort of minerals and electrolytes in it that if you're dehydrated, coconut water is absolutely amazing to help you rebalance fast. And so make sure you're drinking plenty of water. That our bodies consist of a massive amount of water. And so make sure you're hydrating yourself well. Introduce or making sure you're eating very good range of healthy fats. Those will also help. Sea buckthorn oil is also known to help. Sort of like so you would ingest those. Topical treatments, olive oil. So if you don't want to use like sort of a vaginal lubricant that you buy from the shop, olive oil is brilliant because it's natural, it's healthy, extra virgin olive oil, and that sort of replicates the moisture level within the vagina probably the most effectively. You could use coconut oil if you want to. And I want to stress also, this isn't just for sex either. A lot of women I speak to, they are so uncomfortable because they're so dry that even walking makes them sore. So, you know, when you're using something long-term, try extra virgin olive oil, try coconut oil, and see how you get on with those. And those should certainly help you without causing any sort of nasty side effects as well. Topical estrogen gel. So if you don't want to take HRT, but you're thinking, I actually do need some support down there, topical estrogen gel is something that your doctor should be able to help you with. And again, it's just like a gel that you insert inside, and that should help to keep the lining of the vagina more flexible, stronger, and help to prevent some of that chafing and also dryness that you might be suffering with. Again, joint pain is something that is an age-related thing, but can also be exacerbated by menopause. I've mentioned this before, but when I was I used to get out of bed and walk like the Tin Man before he'd been oiled. And I cut out caffeine for a short while and I introduced a vitamin E supplement. That made the biggest difference to me. And now I no longer take vitamin E supplements, and my joints are so much better. Whether that is just evolved as I've gone through postmenopause, or whether I just needed to get rid of that underlying inflammation so that then my joints, you know, were no longer getting inflamed. That could well be the case. And I now drink coffee. I normally only have one, maybe 1.5 cups a day. But yeah, it worked incredibly well for me. So if you're going to try that, make sure if you're getting the vitamin E supplement, you get it with the 4 tocopherols and the 4 tocotrienols. If you go onto Amazon, you'll know exactly what I mean. It sounds complete gobbledygook at the minute, but just make sure it's got the 4 and the 4 rather than just the 4 tocopherols. A lot of vitamin E supplements just have the 4 tocopherols. You want the 4 tocopherols and the 4 tocotrienols. And also remember that you as you're going through menopause, your muscles will atrophy and your bones will get brittle if you don't take steps to help maintain that. And that includes strength training. There's no sort of way around it really, except for incorporating strength training, and that is doing exercises using weights. They don't have to be heavy weights, but they're having some weight element to it is going to be very beneficial for you. It's also going to help your balance and your mobility. As we get older, we have a tendency to fall over more often. I can't remember the figure off the top of my head. I've quoted it before, but the amount of women it might be something like 12,000 a month that die in hospital because of a hip fracture. The number is phenomenally high. It's very scary. So avoid hip fractures like the plague. And to avoid hip fractures, you want to maintain a strong, supple, well-balanced body so that, when you trip over that hole that was sticking up that you didn't see, you're not going to fall over. And if you do fall over, at least you bounce better. I remember falling over in the garden. I slipped. I was on a slope. I wasn't focusing on what I was doing. I got slippy wellies on and I literally went doof, straight down. And I just thought, oh, no. And I didn't even have any bruising. I was really, really lucky. And all the weight went on my hips and my pelvis, and I was and my shoulder, and no serious damage at all. Just a bit achy the next day, but beyond that, I was so lucky. So make sure you're keeping your body strong as well, so that you prevent these things happening. And then finally, fatigue. Fatigue is something that I hear so many people talk about, so many women through the menopause. And yes, our falling hormones do have an effect on how we feel, and it does affect our sleep. And insomnia is a really big thing when you're going through the menopausal years. I think a lot of that is the fact that we're not dealing with stress ever so effectively. So look at how you're managing stress. What is it that's stressing you? Can you be really specific about those stressors that are worrying you? Because we tend to have a sort of an all or nothing look at it. So it's just like, all these things are going wrong. Everything in my life is just pants, and whatever it might be. Be really specific about what is stressing you and take steps to try and reduce that stress. It might be the fact your house is messy and you've just not cleared it up yet. So clean it up. Make a day when you can declutter, because that frees up so much energy. It might be that you've got I've had jobs in the house that I've been waiting to do for months. And I just set aside a couple of days and I've literally gone through the majority of them so far. And they were stressing me because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do them. I wasn't sure exactly how to do them. And I've worked my way through them. And it's just like, yes, I feel so happy now, because that's kind of freed up all that energy that I was wasting on all those jobs that needed doing. I mean, there's still loads to do, but at least I've got some of the sticky jobs out of the way. It might be that, you need to have a conversation with somebody that you're worrying about. Get that conversation done, have it. So then you can free up energy, you can move forward from that. But also the reason I'm sort of talking about fatigue as well is that a lot of women have thyroid issues and they don't realize it's thyroid. They think it might be a menopause related problem. Our thyroid can have a real impact on, it could be an overactive thyroid. So, if you're losing weight faster than you'd expect, as well as other sort of things that you're thinking, that's different, go and get it checked. It might be your thyroid. And again, if you're really struggling to lose weight, if you're putting on weight, if you are just feeling fatigued and your hair might be coming out, that is an indication of low thyroid. So make sure you get your thyroid levels checked. That's a really easy test the doctor can do for you, and you'll know very fast whether or not you've got an issue with your thyroid. And then if you have, you can take remedial action to correcting that balance. Thyroid has a huge impact on how we feel, on our fatigue and other aspects of our life. So make sure that if you're thinking, oh, it might be menopause, I'm not sure, just get your thyroid checked just in case. And obvious things would be weight gain, you just can't shift, just chronic fatigue, and hair loss as well can be related to your thyroid. So make sure you get that checked off. So just to sort of recap, joints, remove caffeine, add vitamin E for a short period. I'm not the great believer in having supplements for the rest of your life. I think I take adaptogen herbs. That is a supplement that I will take for the rest of my life because they help you manage stress more effectively. And I literally swear by them for my menopause symptoms. But other supplements, unless you absolutely need to, I take them for a short time and then come off them. You ideally want to be getting all your vitamins and minerals and the good stuff from the food that you eat, which admittedly this day and age is more and more difficult to do. The soil is nutritionally deficient. So how on earth can the stuff growing in the soil be nutritional as well? And then with logistics and delivery times to shops, and how long has it been on the shop shelf, etc. I think unless you grow your own vegetables and fruit from home, and you eat it quickly after picking, and you're using high quality soil nutrients in your soil, it's really hard to get the right amount of nutrients. So but I just don't believe in supplement long term, because I don't think you need to. I think that our food is not devoid. It's just a matter of making sure that the food that we're eating is going to serve a nutritional purpose and feed us for energy and longevity, rather than the opposite, basically. So sea buxom thorn oil and olive oil and coconut oil and healthy fats in general are very good for dry tissues, joint pain, obviously vitamin E, cut out caffeine, strong muscles, preventing brittle bone disease, strength training, without a shadow of a doubt. Obviously water as well. Water's great for everything. So prevent dryness, but also for our bones and our muscles as well. It's really, really important to us. And then maybe, if you've got chronic fatigue, get your thyroid checked. I know that as we go through sort of beyond menopause, it's funny, really. I talk to a lot of women who say, I'm just like crippled with stress, and I just sort of, this anxiety's built up and I can't actually go outside anymore. But the vast majority of women I speak to, and if you fall into that category, you must go and get help, because anxiety is 100% treatable. I'm an anxiety specialist. There are things that you can do to treat it effectively, and it should not come back. So always remember, anxiety is 100% treatable. But if you're stuck in that anxious sort of syndrome, get help for it. And the sooner you get help, the better, because it has a habit of building upon itself, and it reaches out and negatively impacts other areas of your life, until you're almost a bit like Howard Hughes, stuck in a bedroom in the dark, and you never go anywhere. So just make sure that you are getting treatment for that, or talking to somebody about that if you're struggling with anxiety. A lot of women I speak to, they find it quite freeing. I think, we've got to the stage, it's just, well, if you make a mistake, so what? I will try not to make a mistake next time. Our friendship with women becomes a lot stronger. I don't know about you, I've made some amazing female friendships over the recent years, and it's lovely. I think we're no longer, or in so many instances, we're not looking after young children anymore. The dynamics of our relationships are changing a bit. I think a lot of women feel more empowered. We're more aware of what works for us and what doesn't work for us, and we're not afraid to say it. So I think there's a great freedom and release as you get older and beyond. We get a bit more wrinkly, but we get the wisdom and the sort of the peace and presence of mind with it. So just make sure that you, and I just wanted to share this one story as well, from a lady called Sophie, who was suicidal about 3 years ago, in her sort of thickness of her menopause. And I heard from her recently, and she was saying that she is feeling so liberated now. She has completely, she got through the symptoms, she worked through them, she started exercising, she does take the adaptogen herbs, she just started looking after herself more, she reinforced her boundaries, she became really clear on what was serving her and what wasn't, and also cutting the chaff that was not serving her. And 3 years on, her life is just remarkable. She has completely turned a corner. And I just wanted to share that with you, because if you're in the thick of it at the moment and you're thinking, oh, well, that's all well and good, that, she's talking about those women that managed to get through it and didn't really struggle. Sophie really did struggle. And she was one of those that might have ended up being a statistic. Thankfully, she is not. and she has just blossomed. And that is a result of just taking action, prioritizing her self-care to a bit, not entirely selfishly. I think we have this thought where we think, oh, I have no time for self-care. I can't prioritize myself at all. I'm way too busy with everything else. Even just taking 10 minutes every now and again, maybe sit on the toilet for a bit longer and just take some deep breaths. You know, that in and of itself is self-care. When you're taking some deep breaths, recant some positive affirmations to yourself, or listen to interesting podcasts. Listen to podcasts that are going to help support your mental health when you're doing, you know, the boring chores, when you're ironing, washing, gardening, whatever it might be, driving. Instead of putting the radio on or music on, listen to things that are going to feed your brain, feed your mind, feed your hope with the right stuff. Because it's amazing how much of an impact that has on you. And if you've not tried it yet, well, then I challenge you to try it. And for those of you who actually are listening to this and actually already listen to interesting podcasts, please drop them in the comments below. It'd be really interesting to hear what you are listening to. And it would be a really great resource for other women listening to this thinking, oh yeah, I'd really like to know what other people listen to. So please drop your ideas in the comments below, and then it can serve as a resource to other women who might be struggling. So thank you for your time. Make sure to click the subscribe button if you've not done so already, so you don't miss out on future episodes. Please give it a thumbs up if you found this helpful. And if you've got anything you'd like me to cover in a future episode, just send me a message. I love having feedback from you, because then I know then that I'm sort of sharing stuff that you find specifically helpful. And it doesn't matter, even if you think it's a really silly thing, it might be silly, you might think it might be silly, but if you're thinking it, there are loads and loads of other women thinking it too. And actually it's those silly things that I may not have thought of, which could really offer really good value to you. So, you know, I'm open to all your ideas and suggestions, so please send them along, and make it a great week, and I'll chat to you soon.